You know, whenever there's a lot of new people introduced to this channel, I have to make one of these videos. We have to sit down and talk, and we'll do some analysis later to reinforce some of the things that I talk about in this video. But we got a lot to talk about. Hit the like button, subscribe as usual, like button, get it out in the algorithm. All right, one thing I make a point of on this channel, literally, I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it here because new people need to be introduced to what we're all about here. It's all about nuance. In this instance, I'll get straight to the point. Terrence Crawford had a difficult fight. I thought he won. I said I thought he won multiple times, but of course his fans are in uproar because there are a lot of people saying that it was a robbery, or they're saying Terrence Crawford didn't deserve to win, so on and so forth. And so they see a video where anybody gives credit to Madrimov or shows so many of his right hands landing, then they get sensitive. But that's how boxing works. I criticize Ino Uwe, and the defenders of him get up in arms. I criticize Usyk, and defenders of him get up in arms. I criticize Canelo, defenders of him get up in arms. Criticize Crawford, criticize Spence. That's how it works. Criticize Tank. But the important thing to acknowledge is that Crawford looked human. He looked vulnerable despite the victory. And you are seeing repeatedly that when these boxers challenge themselves, they get dropped, like Ino Uwe. They get rocked, like how Usyk got rocked versus AJ versus Fury, or Usyk having his issues with Dubois and things getting testy there. And here's something to take note of. I don't have a lot of criticisms for Madrimov, because a lot of the things that I criticized him for and the bad things I expected him to do leading up into the fight, he did almost none of them. And the things that I said he would have to do to win, he did almost all of them. And it threw Crawford off a lot. And Crawford had trouble adjusting, which is not common for him. And that's another element that makes it obvious that that was a difficult fight for Crawford. And people were acting like it was an easy fight. It absolutely wasn't. Now, it may not have been his hardest for various reasons, but it was definitely a difficult fight, and some rounds were definitely hard to score. But notice how I can acknowledge that I think Madrimov performed better with what he had, but I can still think that Crawford was the better fighter regardless. I'm more critical of Crawford's performance, but I still think his performance was enough to win. People need to have more opinions like that, and that's why I constantly make these videos that are somewhat redundant, but I don't think they're that redundant because the boxing community is made up of a lot of narratives, a lot of hate, a lot of obfuscation, a lot of dishonesty meant to tear down fighters. And my job, at least I feel my job, is to do the opposite. Come with clarity, come with honesty, acknowledge bias rather than pretending that it doesn't exist. And the bias part is funny, actually. I mentioned that because as I was making my video on Crawford, I was so sure that my bias towards Crawford was showing, and I was being super favorable towards him and having a lot of leaning towards him. But like I said, the fans are like a hornet nest that they've been smacked around because the fighter that they support has some issues, and there's a lot of people questioning his legitimacy, although they shouldn't, because Madrimov is big, strong, young, prime, can box. I mean, come on. But yeah, Madrimov was successful. I showed Madrimov having success, and guess what? He had a lot of success. That's not controversial. But like I said, one of the fallacies in boxing communities is thinking that only a certain fan base is insane. By definition, a base of fanatics is always going to be insane. Some are worse than others, don't get me wrong, but I've seen all of them, from all the fighters I just mentioned and more, and they behave the same. Generally speaking, they behave the same, just to different degrees and sometimes for different reasons. And that's something it's so important to acknowledge, because a lot of times if you're stuck in as a fan of a particular fighter and then you see other fan bases, you're like, they're so crazy. It's like your favorite fighter has crazy fans too. That's how this works. It's the same thing across all sports. Although with boxing, it's a little bit different. Maybe I'll talk about that one day. I think boxing fan bases are quite different. Crawford was in a tough fight versus a young, physically bigger, physically primed opponent who had 10 professional fights. And that for some reason, that was like a sticking point for people to delegitimize Crawford's performance. But Loma had 10 professional fights when he was a champion. He had less. So did the monster Ino Uwe when he was a champion. So did Usyk when he was a champion. Literally 2 of the 3 top pound for pound fighters, if not the top 2, the best fighters in the world, are in the 20 fight range, and they were dominating divisions with under 10 fights and fighting for belts with single digit fights. So I don't know how that's even a line of argument. People just say very, very stupid stuff. And there are some people trying to take credit away from Crawford. But if you're new to this channel, I have a lot of videos like this, so supporters already hear stuff like this all the time. But if you're new here, here's what you get. Here's what you'll get if you stick around. If I had to put it simply, 2 C's: credit and criticism. We always give credit to fighters, always, and we criticize fighters, especially if we hold them to high standards, like the top 3 pound for pound fighters, for example. What you won't get is most of the stuff that I see already in the ecosystem. There's an overpopulation and infestation of negativity, people talking politics, people talking theories and contracts. And not only do people not properly give credit, they don't properly criticize. People degrade, denigrate, and demonize, but there's already enough of that. And this channel has a different goal, a different outlook, a different approach, and hopefully by the end of listening to a video, or whether it be analysis or a discussion like this, you'll either see something new or learn something new, or you have fun watching the breakdown, and you come out with a little bit of extra positivity that you can carry more into the boxing community, which it so desperately needs. Quite simple. No hate, just fun. On to the analysis. I'm out.